The year is 801. A city is about to change hands. Inside the walls, the garrison has been holding for months. Food is almost gone. The wells are running low. And on the plain below, a Frankish army is waiting. Tens of thousands of men, patient, tightening the circle. The city is Barcelona. And what happens here will define the next 3 centuries of European history. Because Barcelona is not just a city, it is a line. South of these walls is Al-Andalus, the Muslim civilization that controls most of the Iberian Peninsula. North is the Frankish Empire, the most powerful Christian kingdom in Europe. This city sits exactly on the edge, and it is about to become the most dangerous address in the Western world. To understand what that means, you have to go back. Not centuries, just decades. The Romans built this place. A rectangular fortress on a small hill, 2 rivers on either side, close enough to the sea to trade, high enough to defend. Straight streets, stone walls, a forum at the center, everything designed the way Romans designed everything, permanent. Then the empire fell. The Visigoths came, then the Moors, Muslim armies that swept up through the Strait of Gibraltar and across almost the entire peninsula in less than a decade. By 718, Barcelona is under Islamic rule. The old Roman walls still stand. The streets still follow the same grid. But the prayers are different. For 80 years, the city sits inside Al-Andalus. Not at the center, not at the edge, somewhere in the middle. Then the Franks arrive, and everything changes. Charlemagne has been told by the Pope that he is the defender of Christendom. Every city taken from the Moors is a victory for God. Every fortress converted into a Christian garrison is a brick in the wall of a new civilization. He has already campaigned in Germany, in Saxony, in Italy. Now his attention turns south. And sitting just beyond the Pyrenees, close enough to smell the sea, is Barcelona. The siege begins in 800. The Frankish commander is Louis, Charlemagne's son, 17 years old. This is his first major campaign. His father is watching from the north. The credibility of the entire Carolingian dynasty's southern ambitions depends on what this teenager does next. The Moorish garrison is not large, but the walls are exceptional. Roman stone, 3 meters thick, reinforced. With a clear view of the approaches for miles, anyone trying to storm them will be seen coming. Anyone trying to starve the garrison out will have to wait a very long time. Louis chooses to wait. Autumn passes. Winter comes. The Frankish camp on the plain is enormous. Feeding that army for months is a logistical nightmare. Discipline frays. Some units drift away. The pressure never quite reaches the breaking point. But inside the city, it does. Spring 801. The garrison surrenders. The gates open. Louis rides in. Barcelona is now Frankish. And this is where the story gets strange. Most conquests follow the same pattern. The flag changes. The rulers change. The city slowly becomes part of the empire that took it. But Barcelona does not follow that pattern. The Franks do not absorb it. They use it. They rename the region the Hispanic March. The march means boundary, border, edge. Barcelona is not a city at the heart of an empire. It is the tip of a spear. A fortified outpost designed to hold the line against Al-Andalus and, if possible, push that line further south. This is what Barcelona becomes. A frontier town, a garrison city, and one of the most complicated, dangerous, and surprisingly vibrant places in the medieval world. Stand inside the walls a few years after the conquest. The city is small. You can walk from one wall to the other in 15 minutes. The old Roman grid is still there. The cathedral near the center, the count's residence close by, the market running along the main street. But everything about this place is shaped by one fact. Al-Andalus is half a day's ride to the south. The walls are everything here. Old Roman stone, 3 meters thick, reinforced and maintained with obsessive care. The garrison is permanent. These soldiers are not visitors. They live here, Frankish knights, local families who have learned to work with whoever is in charge. Mercenaries from across the Christian world who come because the pay is good, and the danger is guaranteed. Because the raids never stop. Moorish armies make regular incursions from the south, sometimes small parties, sometimes full campaigns. The Count and his soldiers spend months of every year either defending or attacking. You build in stone because wood burns. You store food because sieges happen. You never stop watching the southern horizon. Now here is what nobody expects. The city is at war constantly, and yet it is thriving. Trade does not stop at a border just because soldiers are fighting. The people of the March need things. The people of Al-Andalus have things to sell, and the merchants who operate in the space between two civilizations, who speak both languages, who know both markets, those people become extraordinarily valuable. Barcelona in this period is one of the great trading cities of the early medieval world, not despite the frontier, because of it. Jewish merchants are the key to understanding this. They live in both worlds, not Christian, not Muslim. They can move freely through Barcelona and through Cordoba, through Frankish territory and Islamic territory. They carry silk, spices, manuscripts, silver. They make the city rich by being the one group that neither side can afford to exclude. Picture a Friday morning in Barcelona sometime in the mid-9th century. The stalls along the main street are selling goods from 3 continents. Frankish iron, North African grain, Byzantine glass, Syrian spices, 5 languages being spoken at once, different faiths, different home cities, different loyalties. None of it matters here. What matters is price. This is what frontier cities do. They compress the world, but the walls are never unwatched. The Count's military obligation to the Frankish Emperor is total. Soldiers when called, walls maintained, ready at any moment to hold a siege or launch a campaign. And then something happens that changes everything. The Counts of Barcelona start noticing a problem, or an opportunity, depending on how you look at it. The Frankish Empire is fracturing. Charlemagne's grandsons are fighting each other, dividing the empire into pieces. The center is losing its grip. And Barcelona is very far from the center. The first Count is a Frank. His successor is a Frank. But within 2 or 3 generations, the Count of Barcelona is no longer a Frankish appointee from across the mountains. He is a man whose family has been here for decades, who speaks the local language, whose interests are here, who has more in common with the people inside his walls than with any emperor sitting in Aachen. The Counts start making their own decisions, signing their own treaties, running their own wars, still technically subordinate to the Frankish king, but in practice running their own show. Nobody declares independence. Nobody announces a revolution. It just happens, slowly, almost invisibly, driven by distance, by the practical reality of running a frontier city that cannot wait 3 weeks for permission from a king who barely remembers it exists. This is how Catalonia begins, not with a battle, with a drift. The city that was captured as an outpost of empire becomes the seed of something entirely its own. The walls that were built to hold the enemy out became the walls that defined who was inside, who shared the danger, who traded in the same market, who spoke the same version of the language, who, over enough generations, became something you might call a people. Every border city in history has faced this. You are placed at the edge to serve the empire. But the edge does not stay still. And the people who live on it stop being outposts and start being something else entirely. Barcelona in 801 is handed from one empire to another. What happens inside those walls over the century that follows is stranger than any conquest. A people inventing themselves, on the edge of 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither. That is still true today. and every city that sits between two cultures. Every community that builds identity out of danger and difference rather than comfort and similarity is living out the same story. The frontier is not the edge of civilization. It is where civilization gets made.